Hey everybody, Dawn again. I'm here today to talk about the second part of the single node series, which is the storage setup and the image registry configuration. You need to do these if you want to run virtual machines on your single node cluster because you need to have persistent storage. I feel like this topic is going to be harder to make jokes about, unfortunately. So just to remind you, we started off from the previous video, which I'll link. Installing our OpenShift cluster on a single node. I used a B-Link mini PC for that video, and I also used the assisted installer. And just as a quick reminder, there are some prerequisites for installing on a single node, which I will include here as well. I'm in my OpenShift cluster. This is my single node cluster, and it's freshly installed. I'm running 4.19, and I need to set up persistent storage. So I'm going to use a disk that's installed in the B-Link. An SSD disk, it's 1 terabyte, and we're going to use the Logical Volume Manager Storage Operator. And you can see, right, the hamster wheels every single time I need to say that. Now, in the previous video, when I installed single node OpenShift, I let the assisted installer install the Logical Volume Manager Storage during the install process, but you don't have to do it that way. You can install it later. And so that's what I'm going to do in this video. I'm going to walk you through installing through the operator hub. So when we come to our operator hub, we're going to do up in the all items, we're going to type logical, and that's going to bring us very easily to the LVM storage operator. And so we're just going to go ahead and do all of the defaults again and hit install. This is just going to take a couple minutes. And once it's installed, it's going to tell you to create the initialization resource. If you watched my other video on installing the OpenShift virtualization operator, very similar, we're going to create the LVM cluster. It's going to ask you to give it a name, and then it's going to ask you for labels. And there's other drop downs here as well that you can make different choices. But in this case, we're just going to do the default. And I only have 1 extra disk, and it's fine for it to use all of that extra disk. So I didn't make any choices or add any device selectors. And as soon as it says state ready in the status, it's ready to go. It's ready to be used. Now you can see that we have a storage class that created by default, and it's the LVMS VG1 storage class. This is currently the default. Volume binding mode is wait for first consumer. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new storage class that lives side by side with that default that's been created by the LVMS operator, and we'll call it LVMS VG1 immediate. And this is going to allow workloads to automatically bind to corresponding PVs. And we will make this our default storage class. So it's not going to wait for the first consumer. It's just going to immediately bind to an available persistent volume. So now we're going to configure the image registry, which is something that I certainly got hung up on the first few times I tried to do it. So I want to walk you through that process. Now we're going to, I feel like a lot of times things like this people typically do on the command line, but I'm not going to. I want to show you the way through the console, because if you are more visual like I am, or you have a harder time remembering commands, or you don't want to have to look things up all the time when you do them, I think this is a little bit more of an easier, slightly easier option if you think the way I do. So what we're going to do to get started is we're going to go into the administration on the side, on the left-hand side, sorry, I keep like looking around, and go to the cluster settings. And then you can see you've got some details here, as well as up at the top, 3 tabs, one of which is cluster operators. And we're going to go to cluster operators. And this is useful that you know where these things are anyway, because we're going to need to look at these for other tasks. But so if you scroll down to image registry, you can see it's showing as status available. Kind of, it's not really. If you look in the conditions, it says it's been removed. So the cluster operator is available. The registry itself is not functioning because it's been removed. And you can see the message there, the registry is removed. So in order to enable our image registry, we need to create a persistent volume claim for that image registry to use. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into our storage on the left, and we're going to go to persistent volume claims. We're going to change our project to OpenShift image registry. So this is where we're going to put our persistent volume claim, and we're going to create it. It's going to ask us some options here. You can do it via YAML like anything else, but here we've got some options, and we're going to choose the storage class as immediate. And then we're going to give it a name, and I'm just going to use image registry storage because that's what the image registry would use if it was creating its own storage, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. The access mode is going to be single user read write only because that's the kind of storage that we have. And the size is a minimum of 100 gigs, so we're going to have that, we're going to change that if that's needing to be changed. And then you can see really quickly, it immediately bound. So here now we have our image registry storage. It's ready, it's available, it's bound. Now we just need to tell the image registry how to use it. We're going to go back to our cluster operators and go back to the cluster operator for image registry. Then we are going to go to related objects. And this is our config for the image registry. So we're going to go into that object, the config, and we're going to go to the YAML because we're going to make some changes in the YAML. And I know that editing YAML is not fun, but that's what we're going to do here. And there's really not that much to do to get it working properly. So the first thing that we're going to do is in the spec section, you see if you scroll down to management state, we're going to change that management state from removed to managed. Then we're going to go down to storage, and you see where those two brackets are. We're going to get rid of those brackets. We're going to go to the next line, indent 2, and type PVC, colon. And then next line, again, 2 more indent, and then claim. And then we're going to use the claim name that we just created, which was image registry storage. It can be whatever you want, but I'm just using that because if we asked the image registry to create its own PVC, that's the name that it would give it. And then one more important final detail that we're going to do here is we are going to change the rollout strategy, because if we leave the rollout strategy as rolling update, that rolling update requires read write many, which we don't have. So that's fine. We're going to change that to recreate, and then we're going to save. And then after just a second or so, our image registry is blah, blah, blah. And then just after a minute or so, our image registry is ready. It has persistent storage, and it's up and running and available and ready to go. So now you can go ahead and install the virtualization operator, and that's in my other video on operators. But that's not what I'm going to do next. What I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to install the ACM operator for multi-cluster management. And then I'm going to use that to manage my virtual machines. So that's coming up in the next video, multi-cluster management. I'm sorry, like I could not figure out how to make storage funny. If there's a way, I'll find it. But it's not going to be in this video, unfortunately. And as always, follow me for more OpenShift tips, tricks, how-to videos and demos, and haunted items and cursed objects. No, sorry, wrong channel. So next up, we're going to be delving into Red Hat Advanced Cluster Manager for managing virtual machines, managing multiple clusters, virtual machine observability, and more. And that's going to be a multi-part series, so hang in there and follow along with me. And, subscribe, like, leave a comment, let me know what you think, only if it's nice. And let's get virtual.